Sophia never imagined the happiest day of her life would become the most painful. Dressed in a white wedding gown, she stood at the altar waiting for the man she loved to say, "I do." Instead, he stepped back, removed his ring, and walked away. Although Sophia had been deaf since birth, she could read every word on his lips. He said he couldn't spend his life with someone who would always be different and too difficult. The guests watched in stunned silence as her dreams shattered before their eyes. Fighting back tears, she quietly gathered her bouquet and left the church alone, convinced that no one would ever see beyond her disability. For weeks, Sophia buried herself in her work as an illustrator for children's books. Drawing colorful worlds became her escape from the loneliness she carried inside. She smiled whenever people looked at her, but every evening, she returned to an empty apartment, where silence felt heavier than ever. She often wondered if the life she dreamed of, a loving husband, children, and a warm home, had simply never been meant for her. Across town, Ethan Brooks was struggling to raise his 4 6-year-old quadruplets after losing his wife, shortly after they were born. Every morning felt like a marathon of making breakfast, packing school bags, tying shoelaces, and rushing to his construction job before picking the children up again. The quadruplets filled his home with laughter, but they also filled it with questions he never knew how to answer. They often asked why they didn't have a mommy like their friends. Ethan would hug them tightly and promise that love was enough, even though he secretly wished they could experience the comfort only a mother's heart could give. One rainy Saturday afternoon, fate quietly crossed their paths. Sophia stopped at a neighborhood bookstore to deliver artwork for a children's reading event. As she stepped outside, a sudden gust of wind scattered dozens of her drawings across the sidewalk. Ethan happened to be passing by with his 4 children. Without hesitation, all 5 rushed to collect the papers before they were soaked by the rain. Sophia thanked them using sign language before realizing they didn't understand. She smiled apologetically and reached for her small notebook. But before she could write anything, the children became fascinated by her graceful hand movements. Curious, they began copying her signs. Sophia laughed softly and taught them how to sign simple words like friend, thank you, happy, and family. The youngest little girl, Lily, stared at Sophia with wide, innocent eyes. After learning the sign for love, she wrapped her tiny arms around Sophia and looked up at her father. "Daddy," she asked, "is she our new mommy?" The question froze everyone. Ethan's face turned red with embarrassment, but Sophia simply knelt down and hugged the little girl. Tears filled her eyes, not because the question hurt, but because it awakened a hope she had buried the day she walked out of that church. Over the following months, Ethan and the children kept finding reasons to visit the bookstore. Sometimes they came for story hour. Other times they brought homemade cookies or asked Sophia to teach them more sign language. Before long, all 4 children could hold simple conversations with her using their hands. Sophia became part of their lives so naturally that it never felt forced. She attended school plays, helped with homework, painted colorful murals in the children's bedrooms, and filled the house with warmth that had been missing for years. Ethan admired not only her patience with the children, but also her quiet strength. She never complained about the challenges of being deaf. Instead, she showed the children that differences could become beautiful strengths. One evening, while watching the quadruplets chase fireflies in the backyard, Ethan admitted that meeting Sophia had changed their lives. She smiled and signed that they had changed hers too. For the first time since losing his wife, Ethan believed happiness was possible again. Months later, Ethan organized a small family picnic at the same park, where the children loved to play. As the quadruplets distracted Sophia with a handmade picture, book filled with drawings of their favorite memories together, Ethan quietly knelt on one knee. He didn't make a long speech. Instead, he signed the words he had practiced for weeks. "Will you marry me and become the family we've all been praying for?" Sophia covered her mouth as tears streamed down her face. The 4 children surrounded them, excitedly signing the one word they knew she wanted to say, "Yes." She nodded through happy tears before signing it herself. Their wedding was small, filled with close friends, laughter, and hands moving gracefully through sign language instead of spoken vows. As Sophia walked down the aisle, The quadruplets proudly stood beside her, each holding a small sign that read, "Our hearts heard you long before our ears ever could." Sophia once believed being deaf meant she would always be left behind. Instead, life led her to 4 children who never cared how she communicated and a single father, who listened with his heart instead of his ears. She learned that real love isn't measured by perfect words or perfect circumstances. It's found in patience, acceptance, and the people who choose to stay when everyone else walks away. Sometimes the family you spend years searching for appears only after your heart has been broken, proving that the greatest blessings often arrive disguised as life's greatest disappointments.